Just wanted to introduce, this is Kevin Best, and he's one of our favorite customers, and we, in the last year and a half or so, we remodeled his home, and just wanted to review what we did on the project. So it was actually Kevin's wife's parents' house, and one of the goals was to make it not feel like the house she grew up in. So we took that and ran with it. There was some plans that had originally been worked out, and we developed that into another solution, and basically went through and touched almost every surface in the house, opened it up. It was a 70s house, which they tend to be very closed in and chopped up and have weird proportions and stuff. So we went through and cleaned all that up, brought it up to modern standards, and provided a very comfortable house for entertaining and for them to live in. And it was a great project for us and a great customer.
You actually managed to exceed our expectations just at the very highest level. So we love this home, and it just turned out beautifully. So it's great, and it's not. It definitely isn't my in-laws' home anymore. It's ours.
So, right.
And it's turned out really great.
Yeah, and I think just having that was an interesting kind of thing to have out there. Always thinking about, how do we make it not Robin's, parents' house? And it actually was a very good way to approach a project, and use that as the filter. Like when we made a decision, should we do this or this? It was always in the background, and I think it really helped. And at first I thought, oh man, this is going to be a no-win thing, because we've all grown up in a parent's house, obviously, and what would that be like? So just having that to go by, was great. And I know when we first were introduced and met, you were coming off of having already hired someone and had a bad experience. So that's also on my end kind of a tough one sometimes to take over a project where someone's had a bad experience, just to gain their trust and kind of always try to prove that you're not that guy. You're the one who's trying to do it right.
It's good that you mentioned that, because I learned so much in that experience, but unfortunately I learned it the wrong way. So I hope that somebody, I hope many people get to view this video, because we're touching on this, and maybe they can learn from from my mistakes. But yeah. We did have a really bad experience. We weren't living near the project at the time. We were actually living out of state. My wife found a designer who she liked and had really interesting ideas, and we took a recommendation and from that designer for the contractor. And some of the things that I guess I learned, I kind of like to relate that story here now just a little bit, because I think they're kind of the key elements that on how to find a contractor. And what I learned there kind of led me to you. And so we picked a contractor based on the recommendation of one person. I didn't really do the due diligence that I should have done, because I was, I could make a million excuses, but it was really on me.
Well, and you're out of state, it's kind of like,
Yeah.
just get somebody, how bad could it be,
Well, it started with kind of ignorance on my part, that I probably am not alone in this, that unfortunately having a contractor's license doesn't mean that you're ethical,
yeah.
or that you're good,
yeah.
or that you really have the capacity to maybe do the size of the project that you're looking at.
Right.
And to even take it further, or that you're qualified to actually sit down with the consumer, with somebody like myself and my wife, and actually help guide them,
right.
into how to have a good project,
right.
and a good result at the end.
Well, there's definitely a lot of different levels, which there would be in any profession, Some people are contractors or specialists, and they only do certain kind of work, and they want to stay small. They want to only work on certain projects. Some people, their eyes are maybe bigger than their stomach, kind of thing, where they think they could take on a project that size, and they, don't really have the background. So there is a wide range, and so finding that right person is daunting, I think, for a customer. I'm not sure. There's not a lot of tools out there to help you with that, but we'll hit on some of those. I think
points.
Those points.
Yeah, which I kind of find out the hard way. But I did pick. So some of the things I kind of did wrong is I only used one recommendation to find the contractor. I talked to the contractor, and they were good on the phone. And then when I met them, they seemed legitimate. But the first thing that they wanted was a large, fairly good chunk of money to work off of.
So I would say that's flag number one.
Yeah, I know that now.
In my experience, that means that there's a cash flow problem, and so if they can't start your job and float the first part of the job without a big, deposit, that's a flag. There are reputable contractors that do take a deposit. But there's certain things, if you find somebody that is reputable and they want a deposit, then you want to make sure somehow that either you have to co-sign the checks or that they set up a separate bank account that can only be, those checks from that bank account can only be written for your job. So commingling of funds it's actually against the law. So if you pay me, I'm supposed to use only the money I got from you to pay for that job. And so a lot of contractors use that method where they set up a separate bank account, especially on bigger jobs. It's just easier to track. It's easier to be a little more transparent about it. So it is a flag though, because most people are trying to take that money and pay for the job that they're on right now because they're running out of money on that job. And then they're always trying to catch up. And it is a flag.
And that's exactly what was happening to our job. And so, and although I'd done some research and read, and I would read things that say that's very common for contractors to want that. Of course, it didn't go into the detail that you've gone into right now, and I wish I'd known that then. The other piece is communication. Although up to the point that I'd given the contractor money, they were communicating and very regularly and very responsive. I soon found that once I'd given them a deposit, that communication wasn't very good anymore. And especially, it was hard to get him on the phone. It was difficult, not responsive to emails, all these different things. So I think because ultimately it's about trust, and it's about finding someone, because you're getting into these projects, which no matter how, ours was, of course, extensive. There wasn't one part of the house that you didn't touch.
Right.
I think we have a brand new home.
Yeah.
Without, and I don't think that's an exaggeration. So, but you have to have trust. This trusting relationship, and the cornerstone of trust is communication.
Yeah.
And whether there's good news or bad news. And so what I quickly found out is if there was no news or bad news, it was impossible to get this person on the phone.
Yeah.
or to get them to answer an email.
So I think in my experience over the years, because I deal with lots of vendors, lots of subcontractors, even customers, that if they have a hard time communicating, then we don't do business anymore. We just, that's a flag. It's another flag. So we have two flags now. One flag is not returning emails and phone calls in a timely basis. For me, timely is, man, it's like if I can't get there the same, I try to get it right back, that same, within a couple hours. Say 12 hours at maximum. Some people go, 24 to 48 hours, but a lot can happen in a project that's moving quickly in 48 hours. So, that timely communication probably the most key thing, and it's at the top, maybe 1A and 1B with the deposit thing, as far as a flag for, start searching for somebody else, because you have to have the communication. Otherwise, there's just so many decisions that have to be made, and so right off the bat, you don't have trust.
Right.
So my whole job at the beginning is to build trust. And the only way I can build trust is by little steps. And the little steps is communicating regularly, doing, showing up on time, that kind of thing.
Right.
And I think that's another thing to look for when you're looking to hire anybody, really, whether it's a contractor or,
The other mistake I'd made with this contractor was I quickly found out that this contractor had done he'd given me references, but the references were all for like piece projects, a bathroom, a kitchen, something with a garage. And what I really did not do well was I was trying to hire someone to be the general contractor to do an entire house. So that meant multiple bathrooms, a kitchen,
right,
every bedroom, the garage, structural pieces, making the home a smart home, installing air conditioning and heating into a home that didn't originally have it.
Right.
So really changing, and so it was kind of like, and I look back on it and feel kind of dumb about it. It was like I went to talk to somebody who had great references for working on a Toyota, and yet I was trying to get them to work on a Porsche.
Yeah.
And so they just didn't have experience in the area that they had experience, but not in the type of project I was doing.
Yeah.
And so I quickly found out that this contractor was being overwhelmed by the scope of it right away in the planning piece, and of course that's what led me to you, and really we'd run to a point where kind of had done everything wrong, violated some of those red flags that you just talked about, although I didn't know about it then.
Yeah.
Communication, finance, not finding, so three things: the financial piece, the communication piece, and then really not finding someone that had the experience to do the job,
right,
and couldn't, and probably wanted to grow to be that person,
sure,
but wanted to skip all the steps that you probably had in the years,
yeah,
that you have to go, yeah, through to do, yeah, it, and wanted to, thought it could be done, right, maybe easily with my project.
No, it took me a long time to grow into that, bigger scope.